Hello friends, today I'm going to tell you about some good techniques for playing maimai to get the high scores. First, you need to decide if you're going to play on the buttons or on the screen. The official recommendation from Sega is to play on the buttons. I personally use a sort of hybrid technique where I mostly use the screen but sometimes I use the buttons. The buttons and the screen both have their downsides. If you play only on the buttons, it will be hard to do big spins when you have to move your hand around the whole screen. If your gloves aren't thick enough, then you might get bruises on your hand, which is the biggest reason that I switched to playing on the screen. If you use the buttons, it might be harder to play quickly because you have to move your arms over a wider area than if you do on the screen. And if you do use the buttons, you can't do one-hand EACHs, which is something I'll get to later. But if you use only the screen, you might find it's a bit too cramped if you're too tall or your arms are too long, and sometimes you might fall victim to swallowing up or rolling up, which is when the maimai machine doesn't correctly process the way you're tapping the screen. The maimai touchscreen has 17 different areas of input, and it can't detect more than one touch in each area. So if you have two hands in one area, say if you're tapping and then you have to slide in the same area, it won't be able to differentiate between your two hands, it will just think it's one hand. So in some cases it might be better to adopt a hybrid style, like I do, and use a combination of both the screen and the buttons. So the first technique is one-handed EACHs, or one-handed boats if you're playing the English version of the game. You can't do this on the buttons because you would need really big hands and also it might hurt, so you can only do it on the screen. Basically it's when there's an EACH that involves two adjacent points and you tap them both with one hand. It's really simple, but I find that it helps me get tired less easy on songs that are really reliant on EACHs, and it helps me with speed, I think, because I don't have to move both hands around. The next technique is called anmitsu and reverse anmitsu, and it's not something I do a lot. It's when two notes that are close together musically are alternating repeatedly. Instead of dealing with them one in each time, you treat them like an EACH, so that one will be a bit late but the other one will be a bit early. And the opposite of this is a reverse anmitsu, when there is an EACH but you deal with it by doing one side early and the other side late. This is mostly used on songs that are really quick and you can't tell which hand you're supposed to start on, and basically so that you don't break your combo, but because it leads to the timing being weird, it's not really a good technique to rely on. The next thing is delay slides. So when a slide comes up, you have to first hit it at its beginning point and then slide along with the star. With a lot of songs it's not necessary to slide exactly along with the star, but to wait and slide it all at once very quickly, and it requires you to know the song already so that you can stay in time with the music and still get it perfect even though you're not following along with the slide. So it's a bit hard, but overall it can make things easier. The next thing isn't really a technique, rather than it's more something to watch out for. Sometimes there will be a lot of slides connected to each other, and instead of doing them one by one, you'll have to tap the beginning points as they come up with one hand and then trace with the other hand. At first this can be really difficult, and you kind of just need to work on your hand-eye coordination so that your hands don't just run into each other and that you can follow the shape of the slides properly. Next is push slides and frontal attacks. Frontal attack is just the word for when you deal with a slide normally, either by following the star or doing a delay slide. But a push slide is when you tap the beginning point of a slide, and instead of sliding your hand along it, you place both hands down on the slide at the same time so that it's registered as a full slide very quickly. On some songs you need to do this because they're just very fast and it would be really hard to slide your hands along it manually, and it's not really used very often, but it's good to keep it in mind. And the last technique, I'm not sure if it has an actual name, so I'm going to call it two-hand big spin. So a big spin is when you have to move your hand around the whole screen like you're performing a slide, and a lot of songs have you do this really quickly and really repetitively, so it might get tiring for you to do it with just one hand, or just one hand might not be fast enough. So what you can do is perform half of it with one hand and then switch to the other to complete the rest of the big spin, so that the labor is split between both hands and neither of them gets more tired than the other. And you might find that it's faster to move both of your hands in this sort of up and down direction instead of moving one hand in the circular direction. And those are all the techniques I have for you today. If you want to see more maimai videos, please like this video, and maybe also subscribe if you want to see what I make in the future. Bye.